Guys, welcome to Better Bachelor. I am Joker, and today we're going to be doing a book review of Aarons Clarey's Book of Numbers. I will say this is a sponsored video by Aaron, but the truth is I have all of Aaron's books. I consider myself a fan of his work, and I'm glad I came across them. So even though he has asked me to review his book and do a video, I'm happy to do it for him. Aarons Clarey has a channel here, and he's written several books, about six books, I think, of his I've read. He may have a couple more out there. If he has, I haven't caught them. His most famous one is Bachelor Pad Economics, and he has a couple of others. But what I like about Aaron's book, and what I want to talk to you about today specifically on the Book of Numbers, and then at the end I'm going to cover some of his other books, is that, you guys have asked me a few times, like, hey, I love your material, but there was this one video where you mentioned these statistics and about how marriages don't last. And some of you say, hey, there was these other statistics about dating on Tinder, online dating, and the odds of actually dating somebody, and what's that video? Aaron's book here kind of does what I wish I could do, which is write a book that contains all of that information in one very quick, easy access way to look at it. And, you guys have asked me to write books, and I wish I could, but Aaron writes the books that I can't. I'll just be real frank with that. But I like it because it's concise, and it gives you a lot of good information. And this is kind of a go-to reference manual, or quote Bible, if you wanted to call it that, for anybody that says to you, hey, why don't you get married, or why don't you date, or here's some of the statistics on that stuff. So I'm going to read down a synopsis of his book, and then I'm going to talk specifically about the chapters and everything that's in it. So he says, the world economy and its... let me read the full title again. It's the Book of Numbers, Analyzing the Return of Investment on the Pursuit of Women. Now, let me just quickly state kind of the overall encapsulation of the book. The book takes into account, okay, based on the best data that is available today, what are the odds of meeting a woman? What are the odds of being able to date that woman? What are the odds that she's mentally stable? What are the odds that she won't take you to court and take everything you own? What are the odds that that you won't get divorced and she'll actually stay with you? What are the odds that somewhere along this line it doesn't cost you every penny to your name? And he breaks it down really well based on hard science. And again, the best that's available today, because you do have to look at surveys, and in some cases you do have to look at statistics and things like that. But it's a very honest way of trying to say, hey, even given these numbers, if we put some wiggle room in here, your odds are not exactly great. And so let me read down through the synopsis here, and you guys will get an idea of kind of what we're talking about here. He says, the world economy and its entire historic economic production has been fueled by one thing and one thing only: sex. Specifically, men's desire to sleep with young and beautiful females. It's not specifically female youth and beauty per se, as much it is as the fertility these things signal. But make no mistake about, female youth and beauty has powered the world economy since the beginning of time, and men are the economic engines that run it. When you look back historically at dating, whether, prior to, I'd say, the 1960s and the sexual revolution and the advent of the pill, men wanted to secure the best woman they can. And really it kind of became down to how good can that man provide for a family. And yes, to some degree his looks, but that was secondary. It was going to be how well can he provide to a wife, how well can he provide to kids, and if he's less of a playboy, he's going to stick around longer and be a better husband to the woman, and to be able to give her a life of leisure, better cars, bigger house. Maybe they'd brush elbows with the well-to-do. Well, because of this, men wanted to become very successful, and men wanted to make a lot of money. And in many cases, men wanted to be the best they could be. And so they went forward into the world knowing, hey, the better I am and the more money I make, and, well, the better catch I am. And so maybe the better woman I can get will be. Well, based on that, that's men working really hard and sacrificing their time, their abilities, their focus, their energy to try to bring that to the table so that they could win a woman. And that's kind of what he's talking about here, because again, men want to get the best catch they can get, and women want to get the best catch they can get. He continues on. Consequently, in their pursuit of women, men have not only produced nearly every penny of GDP, but have also created nearly every technological innovation in the history of the world. They've built civilizations from the ground up, cured diseases through amazing medical advances, laid incredible multi-trillion-dollar transportation and communication infrastructure, and it isn't even these great Herculean achievements of man as much it is the daily grind billions of men today and in the past went through to attract a wife and support a family. Let me pause there for a second. If you think about it, the laundry washing machine, a laundry dryer, dishwasher, something like a feminine pad that women use when they're hitting their monthly cycles, all these things were to make women's lives easier. Well, men weren't doing the dishes at the time. Men were not doing the laundry. So why did they invent these things? Number one, it's an invention. It'll make you money. Number two, the company that you work for will see that you've made a very desirable product. So when they make it, they will make money. You might get a raise. You might become a VP of something. But also, they were making the women's lives that they loved easier. This is what guys do for women when they care about them. The problem is back then, not that it was a problem back then, but back then they would get a return. They would get a wife that would be, happy and take care of him and the family. And today that's changing a little bit. Now today those same men are called, patriarchy and problematic. Continuing on, from waking up in the morning to going to school and to suffering to commute, to working overtime, to hitting the gym, to majoring in STEM, to going to war, even to the granular level of choosing which shirt to buy or what car to finance, nearly all of a man's post-pubescent life is directly or indirectly dedicated towards the pursuit of women. And if there were no women, 90 trillion in global GDP and 360 trillion in wealth would simply disappear overnight. And the army of 50 billion men who've existed on this planet would never have produced the 3 quadrillion in total historic GDP that built society. Without female youth and beauty, humanity would simply not exist. I think I agree with him here. And the big thing is, I think today the problem is this. As these men were motivated, again, they were motivated to work hard and to better themselves and to keep themselves happy and to be a good husband, because that means they get the very best wife that they can. And so again, they produced, they work hard, they were consumers. They wanted to best themselves to be able to make good money, to be able to purchase for the home. Well, today, what are men getting for this? If you work hard and you bust your nut at a job and you come home and you're expected to also share the dishes and the housework, and maybe you're complained because you didn't do a certain chore right, before you know it, men are kind of saying, why am I going out there and busting myself, trying to better myself and try to make all this money, and where my life is relatively simple. Now, yes, some of you guys like, fancy yachts and sports cars, but many of you also kind of say, something, I just want to do what I want to do, and I don't want to be part of the grind, and I don't want to have to go off to a job that I dislike just so I can maybe have an enjoyable family life at home. I'm a great case of that. I was a network engineer. At one time, I owned a big house. And I thought, hey, I've got a lot to offer. I have a sports car. I have a nice home. I have a great job. I work really hard. And in the end, it was like, well, do I really want these things, or is this something I'm doing to be a, quote, good man and a good catch for society? And when you start seeing it as that way, you kind of say, do I really need the things? Do I need to have a home that's decorated with fancy art and looks really good? And do I need to kind of do this posturing? Or could a guy just rent or buy a couch, buy a TV, buy a game system where he can, and maybe have a little bit of an internet, and he's good. And like the place could be entirely barren. I've seen photos of guys' houses like that, and they seem to be pretty happy. Some of the best times in my life was when I was renting a flat or an apartment with a couple other guys, and we all slept on futons. We ate macaroni and cheese that was 75 cents in a box. And we'd scrape together and maybe be able to, we worked at the local Best Buy or game shop or whatever. and we'd kind of hang out and we'd party and we'd go out and hang out with friends. And then we'd come back and play video games. And it sounds like a very meager existence, but it was fun because you were with friends and you were having excitement. Well, what's part of growing up where you need to leave that behind? Well, you need to get a better job and you need to get an education and you need to make enough money to have a better car and a bigger house and to be able to support a family someday. But what if that's never your desire? There's all that GDP that never gets made because you're only worrying about yourself. I think this book is good for both those of men that are bachelors, are happy bachelors, and they never want to date or marry. This is the reason why. Because when you read this, this is what you can hold up and say, hey, you know what? This right here, this is my holy grail of books. This explains to you why I'm not in the dating scene. And for those of you thinking about dating, this is also a kind of a holy grail, a manual for you that says, hey, these are the steps that you're going to have to go through. Here are the chances you're going to be successful. Here are the things that you're going to have to do. And here's how much it's going to cost you. And I mean both in time and in effort and in frustration and in money. And again, this book, let me scroll down here. It's 110 pages of print length. I got the audio copy. I got it on audiobook through Audible because I am an Audible member. And I listen to podcasts and read or listen to books all day long while I'm working and doing other various tasks. So for those of you guys that are out there that don't sit at a desk job, or you sit at a desk job, but you have to do something other than read. This is a great way because while you're out on a run, while you're at the gym, while you're going for a walk, while you're working, around, whether it's around the house or at your job, you can listen to material. And I'm not plugging Audible per se, but I am saying it may be worth, I think Audible's like $9.99 a month. I have it and you get 2 credits every month, which is 2 books. And for those, I tend to get at least 2 books, if not more. And some of these books are up to 40 hours in length, 38 hours, 37, 35. You can get very long books. So Aarons is available $5.99 if you do have Audible and want to buy it. But the Kindle version's only $7.95. And again, this is maybe a 3 or 4 hour read, 2-3 hour read. I know 110 pages sounds short, but you will want to kind of mull this over and look at the statistics and kind of think about it. It's a very easily understood book, but it's what men like, which is this is not all about feelings and working on your empathy. This is about raw numbers and raw data, and if it's worth it for you to date or not. So let me bring up the chapters. So number 1, first chapter is the question, which is kind of what we've talked about. Number 2, the assumptions, which is, hey, you may want to date short-term, long-term. Are you using dating apps? Are you trying to meet someone in real life? How is it going to happen for you? The model, he talks about the actual data that they collected to make this happen. And they even throw in they take a best case scenario, or they, meaning the statistics that Aaron used. He takes a best case scenario, worst case scenario. In many cases, he takes the worst or the best case scenario for the guy. And then when he does all the math, you realize, ooh, that's still not a very good case. Like the math is not in our favor. He says the next chapter is the chances, the percent of women who are marriageable. And that goes through mental health of women, how many women are, wanting to date multiple people at once, how many women are not wanting to settle down, how many are just marriageable. Chapter 5 is the chances, the percent of women willing to marry the average man. And that's the key word in there, is the average man. Not superstar, but you as an average guy, what are the chances that you can actually find a woman that is willing to marry you? Chapter 6, the chances, the percent of chance your marriage is a happy one. There he talks about divorce, he talks about infidelity and cheating, he talks about the bedroom drying up after so many years, he talks about the end of the relationship when things just don't work out so well. So that math is also put in there. Chapter 7, the chances, real world numbers. And again, he looks at hard line statistics and a varying subset, and I don't remember exactly what that subset is now, but he looks at the real world numbers and he breaks it down. He's just like, and here's the chances, and here's what you're going to have to do, and here's kind of the summary of the previous chapters. Chapter 8, the costs, and again, that's time, finances. He breaks it all down, and he's going to tell you, like, if you date, it's going to cost you X amount of money. And if you took that money and instead invested it, you'd have this much money. And he breaks it down really, really well to give you a good idea of Do you really want to put money into this or not? Number 9 is the return on the investment. In other words, what are you getting for your time? What are you getting for your money? And is that worth it? And number 10, the strategy. And what he talks there is, okay, if you're going to do this, here's what you have to do for your health and to look good and hitting the gym and dressing well and all the multiple things you're going to do to make this work. So, guys, that's a quick summary. I wanted to say, let me go back here and bring up, I'm just going to mention his other books real quick because Aaron's got so many great books. And let me zoom out. I'm not gonna bring this up necessarily. I won't bring up a graphic, but I want to read some of these to you. So there's the Book of Numbers, which we've been talking about this one. Bachelor Pad Economics. That's about, hey, you as a young man, here's some economics you need to be aware of as you. And when I say young, anybody that's under the age of 40 or 50, I'd say can get something out of that. He also wrote a book called The Curse of the High IQ. Another one, Poor Richard's Retirement. That's great about retirement and investing. He's got The Sanity of Future and Wealth. He's got a whole bunch of them. And so my recommendation is just to jump over, go whether it's on Amazon or another bookseller that you prefer. Go check out his books. They're absolutely wonderful. And I'm a big fan of Aaron's. And Cappy writes the books that I wish I could, but I just can't. So I'll stick to my videos. I will recommend his books, and these are the books I'd write if I could. So I'd really recommend you going out and grab a couple of them, and I think you'll enjoy them. Guys, I'm going to leave it there. I will see you soon in our next video. Again, the particular book we're talking about here today is the Book of Numbers. If it'll pull up for me here, click, click, click. The Book of Numbers, Analyzing the Return of Investment on the Pursuit of Women. Check it out.